but that just means there might be a little tissue there that could produce cancer. For the male to female, okay, even if they have the orchiectomy, that doesn't mean that they've had their prostate removed. So the testing for prostate issues still has to be conducted. And the examinations, it's extremely uncomfortable, but it needs done. And that, because there could still be issues. There was a television show called Cold Black. Wonderful show. I love that. It had an issue with a transgender woman there that her PSAs were levels were elevated, but the intern or resident the intern at the time had no clue what that meant because it was a woman sitting there in front of her. The actor who portrayed the nurse went in there and automatically knew because of the lab results, talked about her being transgender, and she admitted to it just as the time as her partner came in. Okay, so her partner didn't know and was thrown off about that. It is important for transgender people to have open discussions with their partners so when medical issues come up, their partner knows what's going on and can relate if the person is not able to talk to medical professionals themselves. Okay. In most cases, hospitals now are moving towards treating the transgender person as they have on their driver's license, which I think is wonderful because in the start of my transition, it was not that way. It was a case of one doctor would put this saying that this person's a male when granted I identified. I had a nurse question me several times. I'm sitting there as a female and she's like, "You're a female?" I'm like, "Yes." Hadn't had my ID changed yet. Couldn't change that in the computer system. Once my ID was changed, I was able to change that in the computer system, and it has made life better going to the hospital. When I had to go to a different hospital that I had been to 20 some years ago, I gave them my new ID so they could change it, and I had to make sure they made that correction in that database. Um, if a person goes in for a double mastectomy, there can still be an issue of breast cancer because if they don't remove all breast tissue and lymph nodes from the sides of the breast, because milk ducts go just beyond the breast, then cancer can develop. Well, I hate to tell you, even a transgender female needs to go in and have their yearly or bi-yearly mammogram as well. Because when we start on hormone replacement therapy, or as we call it, HRT, then we are just as susceptible to having issues like that. And if you have a mother, an aunt, a sister, or somebody in your family that has had breast cancer, you are susceptible. Men are susceptible. There are studies that show that men have breast cancer. So even men from the ages of 15 to 25 have been shown in studies to have breast cancer and need to go in for mammograms. It gets to a point in our society where we look at people and say, well, you're too old for a mammogram. No, as long as a person is breathing and alive, they need a mammogram, no matter how they identify, no matter their gender, male or female. Once you have your registration changed with insurance, it's not just health insurance. I went through insurance classes to sell insurance. That's a tricky one because at the time of autopsy, if you have not had every um, everything removed and you are not able to proceed in everything, then when they do your autopsy, they may revert back to your life insurance company that you were male, portrayed as female, or so you have to be careful and talk to your not only your health insurance company, your life insurance company. Make sure they understand and that your policies are written the proper way. They need to not deny policies because of those issues. We have a right to have the same insurances as everybody else, and we need to have our insurance policies written as the gender we express and are, because our lives can match that of the cisgendered female or the cisgendered male if you're female to male or male to female, respectively. So it's not just how you were born, but your lifestyle is what really helps enable that. So we need to get the insurance laws changed and the policies changed to cover those. And that would really help in presenting those. So I had a hypothesis um, that these proposed bills out there, if they were if they have to do with equality for everyone, is that the ones elected are too afraid to do what's right for those people in their constituencies. But if my hypothesis changes to if they decide to include everyone, then things will become better for our society. And that is the important thing, is making change, making things great and awesome for everyone, making life considerably better. Now, during our next week's talk, I'm going to dive a little bit more into myself, and I hope you join me for that. It's giving you a little bit more insight than just from what I've touched up these past few episodes. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about my family and what they have expressed to me through their experience and what we experience on a daily basis, um, living our lives the way we do. It is rather remarkable in some people's opinions. To me, it's just life, and it is the way it is. And I would greatly appreciate any feedback you guys have for me. Um, and I would love to hear from you. If you are interested in being interviewed, please reach out to me through social media or my blog, because that is the easiest way for me to connect with you and set up a conversation to where we can possibly interview you for the show. Um, I love to help veterans in their pursuit for their issues as well. And we'll talk a little bit about my advocacy in the next week's program, as well as my family and what we have going on with us. So you'll get a little bit more of an insight. I'll talk a little bit about my memoirs coming up. Oddly enough, Combat Boots to High Heels as well for my memoirs. And so I would like to express my deepest thanks for you listening to my podcast today. And I want to thank you once again. This is KYLA CLAPHAM, and you have been listening to your host for Combat Boots to High Heels on Society Bites Radio, part of the Radio Ear Network family. Have a wonderful day. And again, my email is combatbootstohighheels, HEALS, @mail.com.